What's up, YouTube? You know what time it is. It's Mighty Fan time. And this is my reply to Pistol's challenge. Now, his challenge dealt with like a player who let your team down, let your city down. Well, this player never played for my city, but the way that this player let us down was more so the way that he wasn't drafted on this to play for my city, and he should have been. And the player I speak of is he's still, even though he never played for the Sixers, I've always respected him. I've always respected his game, and it's hard not to be a fan of this guy because he is a great player, and he's been a great leader of his team for many years. Shout out to Murph. Shout out to the other Celtic fans out there because it's your guy, Paul Pierce, whose number will be retired eventually with the Celtics. Will be a future Hall of Famer. And way back when he was coming out of the University of Kansas, the Sixers had a draft pick high enough to draft him. They were ahead of the Celtics in that draft that year. They could have drafted Paul Pierce. But the Sixers had Larry Brown as the coach back then. And for all the good that Larry Brown did as a coach, he did not know how to evaluate talent in the college game. He just never knew how to do that. He had horrible drafts here in Philly. I don't know if he ever had good drafts anywhere he went. He was bad at evaluating young talent out of college. So the man coached at Kansas, okay? He coached Danny and the Miracles to an NCAA title way back when. Paul Pierce played at Kansas, not under Larry Brown, but he played at Kansas. You would think that Larry Brown with the Kansas bloodlines would have chosen one of his rock chalk Jayhawks to be on the Sixers, but it wasn't meant to be. Instead, they drafted out of that great NBA powerhouse, St. Louis University, Larry Hughes. It's still a move. It's still a pick that Sixer fans, we just cringe when we hear. Because we all wanted Paul Pierce. We all knew how good he was. We all knew he was going to be a great pro. And instead of getting him, they got a guy no one ever heard of here in Larry Hughes. And I know when, it's not to say that, hey, you can draft a player that no one's ever heard of. He can turn out to be a great player. I mean, how many people knew Dirk Nowitzki before he came into the NBA? So just because you're drafting a guy no one's ever heard of doesn't mean he's not going to be a great player. But in this case, yeah, the fans were right. You should have drafted Paul Pierce and not Larry Hughes. Larry Brown, just pistol. If he was on the Sixers, maybe we would have beaten those Lakers in 2001 because Iverson and Pierce, that's a pretty good combo right there. But anyhow, it is one of the things that, one of the moves, and many bad moves that the Sixers have made for many years. in drafts and whatnot. Not so much drafting Iverson, but some of the other decisions they made have been really. But not drafting Paul Pierce was a big mistake. In fact, the Sixers have never beaten Paul Pierce in a playoff series since Pierce was a Celtic, and it's just a shame because it always reminds me of what could have been. If only he could have been a Sixer with Iverson, who never really had that other player to play with here in Philly. He had some decent players, but a lot of those players were past their prime, like the Chris Webbers and the Glenn Robinsons, and Tony Kukoc and so on. I mean, the list goes on. People say, well, Iverson couldn't play with other players. Well, he never really had another great player to play with. He did pretty good for himself in those All-Star games, if you remember. He and Pierce seemed to be on the same page on those All-Star games. Could have been a Sixer. Could have been together. Both their numbers could be hanging. Eventually, I'm sure they'll hang number 3 someday. And I'm sure if Pierce was a Sixer, his number would... Although he wouldn't have been able to wear number 34 here. Because that number... Sixers were not giving that one up. And, of course, Barkley, and they retired that one. But maybe he would have been 33 or something like that. I don't know. But... it's just a shame because you look back at it, you look back at moves, and I'm sure all of us could say that for our teams. If they only would have drafted this player in this sport and whatnot, and what could have been. But not drafting Paul Pierce and taking Larry Hughes instead was a big mistake by Larry Brown. And you still see Paul Pierce playing at a high level today, even today, and it's just a reminder of what could have been. So. But like I said, I've always liked Paul Pierce. I've always been a fan of his game. I just wish he was a Sixer. I really wish he was a Sixer, particularly today. It's like watching them play today. It's like, oh boy, they really could use that veteran leader on the team right now. But they're still a work in progress. They have some good young talent, though. I mean, Drew Holiday, the All Star this year. Thaddeus Young. They have some good young talent. But I would like to see them get some players in the offseason that have come from winning organizations, winning teams, know what it is to win, build that culture here. They started something last year in the playoffs. Hey, people say, hey, if 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 Rose never got hurt with the Bulls in that series, the Sixers wouldn't have won that series. That could be true, but it was still a gutty series win for the Sixers. And you know what? You had to build on something. And they pushed the Celtics to 7 games the next series. Had they shot better in the fourth quarter of that Game 7 in Boston, they would have won that series. Not the Celtics. The Sixers would have won that series, but it wasn't meant to be. And you saw the Celtics. I mean, they pushed the Heat to 7 games last year. Of course, the Heat go on to win the championship. But, it's a shame. And there's been a lot of talk, obviously, about Andrew Bynum. And my look at that is that, you know what, as a Sixers fan, I was happy when they made that move because it was a proactive move. It was going for it. It didn't work out, but it's not the type of move that's going to kill them because it was a 1-year rental basically. They're not, tied up in his contract and such. So I don't think in the end that was a horrible move. I mean, there's been a lot more worse moves the Sixers have made over the years than Andrew Bynum. It's a shame it didn't work out, but I can't fault them because they were trying to go for it. They had come off Game 7 against the Celtics in the semifinals. They were going for it. And again, I'm not going to fault them for that. And it didn't work out. More than likely, he'll be on another team next year. But you know what? Let's just push past that. Hopefully they can, get a good young player. They'll have a high pick again this year in the draft. Hopefully, Larry Brown's not picking, so hopefully they'll get it. They'll make another good draft pick this year, and get some good free agents or something like that. Hey, there's still some years away. We know that as Sixer fans. I mean, you got the Heat, you got the Celtics, you got the Bulls. The Sixers are still some years away from really making a move. And some noise in the Eastern Conference, but you got to start somewhere, and I hope that this offseason is a good one. I hope that they get some players from winning teams, winning organizations, build that culture here, and, get a good young player in the draft. You got to start somewhere. I mean, superstars, sometimes you don't know what a superstar is going to be until he comes on a team and plays. So, hopefully the Sixers can get one of those superstars someday. The last time they had one was Iverson. So, although Drew Holiday is a promising young player, like I said, Thaddeus Young, but yeah, it doesn't hurt to have those superstars. I know Miami. I know. Going for 28 in a row tonight against the Bulls, but yeah, it's nice to have them. It is. And like I said, speaking of superstars, I mean, Paul Pierce was certainly a superstar and a player who could have played on the Sixers. It's so a shame. I wish the fans could have made that pick for Larry Brown that year. I wish we could have said, you know what, speaking from the Sixers fan base, we're going to select Paul Pierce. I think once a decade the fans should be able to vote for the player. Because that's a once-a-decade type player. But, what can you do? Larry Brown. I know Big Baby. I know he won with your Pistons. But, he did not know how to draft. And some are saying, well, what about Iverson? Well, Johnny Davis drafted Allen Iverson. Johnny Davis and Pat Croce. Because Johnny Davis was the coach in Iverson's rookie year. And then it was Larry Brown after that. So, yes, even Iverson wasn't a Larry Brown pick. Although I would imagine that Pat Croce would not have allowed, even if Larry Brown was the coach at that time, would not have allowed Larry Brown to draft anyone other than Allen Iverson with the number 1 pick. He probably would have been standing there with his hands around his throat if he tried to draft someone else. But yeah, and I even think about it as a Sixer fan. I'm sure Throwback King remembers this too. Is that the year after Iverson was a rookie, if the Sixers just had a few more ping pong balls, maybe they would have gotten the number 1 pick again and drafted Tim Duncan. And instead, of course, the Spurs get the number 1 pick, they draft Tim Duncan, and the rest is history there too, right? Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the Sixers have had some bad luck in drafts after Iverson was drafted, and yeah, the next couple of years not being able to get Duncan, not drafting Pierce, that hurt. They've had decent drafts in recent years, Drew Holiday and Thaddeus Young, but yeah. There was a period of time there where they could never hit on the draft, like never. Like every year, it was just forget it. But anyhow, so that's my memory, Pistol. That is the in this case more of a move than, well, I mean, it does deal with a player, but it's more of a move that my team, one of my team's organizations didn't make, that really hurt in the end. So great challenge by you. I have a couple pickups coming, actually. I have one of them in my hands now, but, well, not in my hands now, but you know what I mean. In the collection now, but I'm waiting on the other one to come in the mail. And it does have something to do with this video. And I was going to wait to make this video until I had it, but I figured, yeah, you know what, let me just make the video, and then I can make a pickup video. So, another time. But anyhow, that's a reply for you, Pistol, for your challenge. Great challenge by you. To all my subscribers out there, big shouts to all of you. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button to me, hitting the watch button for me in these videos in the first place, and subscribing and commenting and liking. It's always appreciated. To all my fellow Jersey heads out there, Kings of Throwbacks, all the other groups on Facebook, Big Slim's group, Hometown Fitteds group. I know I'm forgetting a few others, but all you guys out there, big shouts to you as well. All my family, friends, anyone I'm forgetting, fellow DeviantArt members, anyone I'm forgetting, big shouts to all of you. I will have another video up soon, and another one I'm hoping to make, I don't know if I will or not, but hoping to make, is my baseball predictions for 2013, because it is almost baseball season, and yeah, I'm looking forward to my Phillies. Hopefully it's a better season than it's been for the Sixers and Flyers and Eagles and all that. It's been pretty rough here lately. But I'm looking forward to it, and I hope to have a prediction video for you guys coming up, maybe by the weekend or something like that. So keep an eye out for that. And like I said, this is Mighty Fan, again saying peace. I will see you soon in that next video. Okay, take care. Bye.